Brilliant. So as I said before, thank you for joining this morning. It's amazing to have those parents here. Um, and today's session is all about online safety and cyberbullying awareness. And you're joined with myself, Ashley, and Ignacio as well. Both of us are sort of members of Kidscape charity, and I'll be talking you through the charity as we go through. Some of you are using your phones, but I would ask for that phone to be put on silent. However, if you're at home and you have adults that you're caring for, or young people that you're caring for at home, and you need to take 5 minutes out, then please do. Please step away and kind of sort of answer any of those questions that you might need to. I'm hoping everyone over the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, is comfortable with the webinar format. And then also, don't worry about taking notes. As I said to the school before, we're going to give you the handout of everything that we talk about. So this PowerPoint will arrive with you at your school as a handout for you to look back. So the best thing to do is for me to give you everything that we've got, and if you do have any questions, then do ask those at the end. However, if there's something that you really need to ask me in the moment, then please do. And do get involved. There'll be lots of opportunity for you to contribute. A lot of this is around kind of sort of parenting. I'm a parent myself. I'm not a specialist at it at all, so I'm more than happy to kind of listen to your advice on that as well. But do get involved today. It's a topic which is very emotive, and it'd be great to kind of have your input, whether that's via the chat box or whether that's taking yourself off mute and talking things through. I would really encourage that, please. Brilliant. So those of you that have never heard about Kidscape, or some of you might have heard of Kidscape, we're the longest running anti-bullying charity within the UK. We were founded in 1985, and we are part of the Anti-Bullying Alliance. And for me, what's unique about Kidscape and why we fit so well within the alliance is the work that Kidscape do is practical interventions. So we provide help for children and families who are going through a bullying situation, and what we do is we provide monthly workshops. We provide workshops in schools where we share practical tools around resilience and assertiveness and confidence. So we quite often move away from the assembly style delivery. We work in very sort of small cohorts, so classroom based, around sort of 30 children at a time, and we teach them these skills. So we look at kind of confident body language, we look at assertive voice, and we work frontline, face to face with those children and with those families as well. We also support with Rise, which is the transition from year 6 to year 7. We create brave spaces for those young people to talk about all those worries or concerns that they may have, but also look at the amazing opportunities and the brilliant adventure that's about to take place once they step out of primary school into secondary school. And for your support as well, we have the parent advice line. So if you do have any worries about a bullying situation, face to face or online, then do come through to us, and I'll provide you with more information about that as we go through. Training for professionals. So we are a UK award-winning leading provider of safeguarding and child protection training. We also work with all our organizations around bullying awareness, peer mentoring programs within school as well. Last week we just had anti-bullying week, which is always the busiest week of the year for us. We were very lucky. We were in 4 schools pretty much every single day working with young people, so it was incredibly busy. And on the Friday of anti-bullying week, Kidscape lead Friendship Friday, which is always the last Friday of anti-bullying week. And then we engage in media as well. So quite often, if certain stories have reached media status, then Kidscape will be asked to comment. And our approach with that is always prepare rather than scare. So we don't like to kind of get involved with sort of scary stories and things like that. It's much more about preparing our parents or preparing our adults and our young people as well to kind of deal with situations or have an awareness of what's going on in the world at that time. Our vision is for all children to grow up in supportive communities, safe from bullying and harm, and our mission is to provide those practical interventions, that practical support. Brilliant. So getting it right. So over the last sort of 10 years or so, there's been a lot more focus on online safety and how schools can support. And we are aware that our young people are with schools 80% of the time during the day. So there's a lot of kind of focus now on making sure that a school is there to protect and educate young people and families in their use of technology. And if something does go wrong, then it's having those appropriate mechanisms in place to support that young person and that family. And when we look at learning and where we want them to be, when we look at kind of absolutely what we want them to have an awareness of, and this is where parents and carers, it's where we play our part. It's that we want them, particularly early years, key stage 1, we want them to have an awareness of safety. So that's also just being mindful of being on that device, walking up and down the stairs. It's very sort of a basic awareness. We want them to have an awareness of their private information, what's personal to them, so their name, age, address, and school. And there's quite often a debate around this topic that actually young people are too young at this age to kind of take on these messages. But we talk about road safety from when children are sort of 2 years of age, and we continually remind them when we're crossing the road and when we're walking to school of these messages. And what we never say to our young people is, you're never crossing the road. We say, these are the rules, this is what you need to be aware of, and please keep safe. And that's exactly the same with online safety. We prepare them for everything that's going to happen. We give them sort of boundaries, and then we want them to keep safe. And if something does go wrong, then we want them to talking us about it. So we do, when we work with young people, we do talk about trusted adults at home and outside of school, and who they can talk to. And then we allow them to talk about the types of games that they're playing. So have an awareness of the content that a game is going to include, but also contact. There's a lot of games out there aimed at very young children, and they look kind of very innocent, but sometimes they can have sort of hidden worries within them, like chat functions, so communication functions, so a young person can be able to communicate, or someone might be able to communicate with them. And it's always about celebrating the positives. On the right hand side, you'll see that we've promoted 2 organisations, thinkyouKnow.co.uk, which is part of CEOP. And if you haven't heard of CEOP, a good way to remember CEOP is the online police. And young people always feel more comforted knowing that they have police in the real world, but also there's online police, or the PlayStation police, or the Xbox police, as they refer to them. And there's lots of videos on there for parents to use, to kind of sort of keep talking about these messages of being safe online. And also we've got CBeebies as well, which is an amazing website for videos and games that again are going to kind of making sure we're ingraining those messages of online safety. Key stage 2, suddenly it takes a big jump, because particularly in year 5 and 6 is when we start to see the arrival of cyberbullying. We start to see certain things, young people being sort of left out of chat groups, and actually a lot more involvement in the online world. So what we want them to do is we want them to have a knowledge of how to use technologies effectively and responsibly. And that in the last 18 months has really come into play, because everything was remote. So a lot of homework was based online. We had to get used to Google Classrooms, or the platforms that you were using within your school. So it's about, and there was a lot of trust that we had to kind of provide to our young people, because it's very difficult to safeguard and manage as a teacher, because you're not there in the room with those young people, and suddenly that sort of parent intervention was paramount as well. So again, what was nice about this is they actually they had sort of 6 months, 8 months of learning how to, kind of a lot more around mobile skills of using the internet, using search engines, using computer laptop based technologies. So that was fantastic. And also having a knowledge of what's acceptable and unacceptable. So again, we're getting in there as early as we can with cyberbullying. We do a lot of work on the impact of words. So we look at the impact of kindness, and we look at the impact of negative words, and that's both face to face and online as well. Social groups, we talk about social media. Although the age range for social media is 13 plus for a lot of the social networks, we do know that year 5 and 6 are already stepping into those environments. So it's, again, you might have pressures on yourself as a parent, that all other young people are on there, but it's basing it on your child and where you think their resilience lies. Again, we want to be comforted that if something does go wrong, that there's help and support, so they have an awareness of trusted adults, inside of home and outside of home, and also to really have that open conversation. It's something that I've learned as a parent myself, that at the dinner table, we always sit around and we talk, and quite often my questions are always about, how did you do at school, and how was school, did you work hard? And actually, what I've started to do now is I've started to include the online world with that. So because we need to include it, because it's a massive part of their lives. And so just talking about, is everything okay, and how's things online. And what happens is, slowly, particularly over the last sort of year and a half, it's just the norm to have to talk about these things now, and for our children to kind of sort of say, actually, this has taken place. So we're creating that space for them to actually talk about it, and it's included always within the dinner table chat. Particularly with Key Stage 2 as well, we want them to have an awareness of how to report things. So again, we want them to be empowered to look at a new game and look at an app and think, right, how do I mute on this? How do I block someone? And how do I report something? And we talk about that being like a seatbelt, that we wouldn't get into a car without a seatbelt, because we would understand that's a very dangerous car to step into. And that's the same with apps and games. We want them to be encouraged that actually there is those functions there to help me if something does go wrong, and to use them if someone is saying unkind things, or if someone is stepping into their world and just destroying a game that they've taken hours to build, like in Minecraft or Roblox. Then they have the ability to kind of prevent that from happening, and keep that environment a happy environment. And then again, being mindful of content and contact. A lot of the games that year 5, year 6, year 4s will be playing will have contact with other people. It is encouraged that they're playing against other people all around the world, that they're working in teams, and communication is a big part of that strategy within those games that they're playing. On the right hand side, again, we have Think You Know, and also BBC Own It as well. An amazing app, an amazing website for videos, and also for us as parents to have a bit more knowledge around what our children are into, what sort of games they'll be playing, or social media, or what the kind of the pressures are at that age as well. So over to you now. Do use the chat box, but also do take yourselves off mute and shout at me. But what do your young people do online? I know we'll have kind of a mix of sort of very young people, and then you might have children in year 3, 4, 5, and 6. So do talk to me. But what do young people do online at the moment? What is their life like online?
I can say.
Yeah.
I've got 4-year-old and 8-year-old, and they all have a tablet, but it's quite restricted. They don't use it very often. But they've all got Amazon Kids on.
Yeah.
I find really reassuring, because nothing can really get through that. They can only use what's on there.
Brilliant.
But my 8-year-old keeps asking to play Roblox, and I really don't want her to. Well, I wouldn't mind. It's just I don't know how to put the safety features in place. So
Yeah, brilliant. So that sort of that hurdle is that you kind of want to check it out first and know that it's all going to be safe and secure before you
yeah,
try to step into that environment. Brilliant. Um, I will be sharing a website that's going to really help you with that, and an organization
great.
which it will take you through a step-by-step guide through Roblox and how to limit the chat function and limit people initiating contact.
Oh, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
And overall, Roblox is a really great platform. It's there's a lot of sort of creative modes, very similar to Minecraft, and it's like Lego in its presentation. Uh, and any game or any book or any film that you can think of, there's usually a Roblox version of that game that they can play. Um, when I was younger, it was Friv and Miniclip that were kind of quite similar platforms to that, where you could go on and play lots of games. But I think that's right. It's right to kind of be hesitant to step into something before you know everything about it. So that's great. Anyone else? What else do young people do online? Talk to me. Talk to me. Ignacio, is there anything in the chat box at all?
I cannot see anything at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
They listen to music as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah,
And watch TV.
yeah. Charlene, what do the young people talk to you about at school?
So yeah, like Alice has mentioned, they like watching music videos. A lot of them have spoken a lot about Roblox, so I know that's definitely a thing. Games like Minecraft. I've heard some children obviously talking about using instant messaging, sort of like WhatsApp. TikTok is another one that's very popular. In school, we have our own remote learning platform. We use J2, which is, very popular. We set homework tasks and things like that on, so children have access to that. But yeah, there's quite a few that, when they speak about using it, it's like, oh, red flags, like, how are you using it? Are your parents aware that you're using it? And, having those open discussions.
Brilliant, thank you.
And Victoria also says that they watch YouTube videos and they access Brawl Stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, YouTube is a massive part of young people's lives, and quite often they'll watch other people playing the games that they want to play. They'll sit through walkthroughs if it's kind of sort of self-help videos, but also they'll absolutely just watch other people playing these games for hours and hours and hours, if they were allowed to. Absolutely. Brilliant. Anyone else want to add anything? Brilliant. We'll move on. But yeah, thank you for your input. So again, a lot of this is the social element that it has. That's what young people really enjoy. It's a private space. It's away from parent. It's away from care and adults at home. I know when I was a child, I never used to play in the garden. It was always in the park or the wood, away from adults, really, so we could just kind of sort of be creative in that space and how we wanted to. Playing games is also something they talk to us a lot about. Music, which you picked up on, films and videos. They love the immediacy of being able to just go onto something and watch Netflix or Disney Plus. They talk to me a lot about research and education is one as well. Making purchases. They're very proud if they have a GoHenry or a Starling account, which are sort of bank accounts aimed at young people. We need to be mindful of parent sort of bank details being attached to gaming consoles and mobile devices as well, because it's very quick to make those payments. Sometimes I know on Apple iPhone it's just a double click of the side button. or they're very clever, they might know our pins, or sometimes they'll hold the mobile phone up to our face because it's Face ID, and that's again very quickly kind of said yes to a payment on something, and they don't always have an awareness of currency as such. They just see that it costs this, and they think, yeah, actually that's I can get that. And a lot of these games now encourage purchases because you have to be able to buy certain clothing or certain, if it's tools that you need, or it's the latest sort of skateboard or something like that within the game. They're encouraged to kind of spend a lot of money. They'll also use it for seeking advice, and kind of linked to making purchases as well is this new kind of sort of gambling, encouraging sort of gambling behavior, where they'll buy certain, what they refer to as packs, and what they'll do is they'll spend £5 or £10 on a box, but what's included, the content within that, is we're not always aware of. So similar with Pokemon cards or trading cards when we were younger, and they spent at £10 and suddenly they got really rubbish content. So what they'll do is they will want to spend another £10, and they want to spend another £10. And what we have to deal with as parents and carers is suddenly a very upset young person because they spent all their birthday money, because it was there, they wanted to, but what they've ended up with is not a lot of kind of useful things. So it kind of encourages that kind of sort of gambling behavior suddenly. When we talk to, believe it or not, when we do talk to kind of year sixes, they do talk to us about being able to access rude sites. So pornography, that might be that some website has been shared with them, and they do have an awareness. Year 5, year 6 have an awareness of dating sites as well, and applications. They'll use it to read magazines and also download files as well. So that's what young people talk to us about. So in this, what I want us to talk about is the benefits. A lot of what we read about is very negative. It's about don't do this and don't do that. So what are the benefits of the online world? What do we enjoy about it? And putting ourselves in the shoes of a young person, what do they really enjoy about it? What are the benefits?
It's a great learning resource. You can pretty much get answers to anything, any sort of questions you have, you can easily find the answers to. So yeah, it's great in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great for communication as well. You know, you can talk to pretty much anybody in the world instantly. So instant access to communication with people that you obviously know, preferably.
Yeah, and I think that's been really valuable, particularly in the last sort of 2 years or so, being able to kind of have that connection, particularly the kind of the video connection where you're able to check in and have conversations with grandparents, or have conversations with other family. If you've got older siblings as well, if they're in university, it's nice to be able to check in with those as well. Absolutely, yeah, communication. Anything else? Yeah, I can see that Alice has put entertainment. Yeah, it is. Young people talk a lot about kind of being able to kind of access TV and film. That's what they really, music. That's what they really enjoy. Making their own content as well, like on YouTube, so blogs or vlogs. There's a lot of editing apps now where they can kind of make their own films or their own sort of gaming videos. What else are the benefits? What else? So what about the risks? And this is usually a much longer list from parents. What are the risks? What are our worries as parents and carers? What are our worries? What messages do you share with your children at the moment? Charlene, anything that you're doing at school? What are the hot topics, shall we say, at school?
I would say obviously the fact that the internet is it's a big thing. You know, you can access pretty much anything. The risks are going into something, you know, getting into a sort of rabbit hole where you don't want to be into. So, you know, it's kind of like you want to be able to let them, you know, be free and research and do whatever they, you know, want to get the answers that they need for specific things. But there's always a risk of accessing some sort of content that's not suitable, seeing things that upset them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think that's something that it's going to be really difficult to ever stop.
Yeah.
Them kind of sort of seeing that content, and what we want to encourage them to do is to talk about those things, and sometimes it can be a pop up which has surprised them, that's come on their computer, or they've kind of been sent a link, or they've been told not to go on some website, and then and then it's how they manage that, and how they deal with that. And ideally, the biggest thing is that they're talking to someone at school like yourself, or someone at home as well. Alice, you've got your hand up for a question. Fire away.
Yeah, I've a couple of things. I think, definitely the immediate risks, like you were just talking about, of something coming up unexpectedly, because once they've seen it, they you can't take that away. You know, so that does bother me, but we can try to limit that. But the thing that I worry about most is how to communicate the risk of inappropriate contact, or, you know, kind of people. The extreme obviously is kind of online grooming, but anybody inappropriately contacting you without scaring them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're at the stage where they don't necessarily need to know that those things happen in the world. You know, you can say, there are bad people out there or whatever, but you don't want to go into too much graphic detail. But then with my daughter, she doesn't understand what my problem is. But, you know, I say, you know, I don't want you just posting things on TikTok. But I can't explain that to her without telling her about everything horrible that's out there, you know. Otherwise she thinks I'm being ridiculous.
No, I do.
Yeah, so that's something I really struggle with, is how can I communicate the risk without going into graphic detail to the point they'll take it seriously.
So there's a few things I can recommend. There's a film on the Think You Know website called Jigsaw, and what it does, it kind of takes an online environment but places it in a real world scenario. And also it's kind of giving them those scenarios to kind of sort of to problem solve. So, for example, would we leave our front door open at night time, and what would be the risk? And what you would start to do is encourage a conversation around, well, there might be of course that sounds crazy to kind of leave your front door open, but why? And then kind of translating those messages into an online platform. So that's why we have security, and that's why we make things safe, and that's why we turn off chat, because although the world is an amazing place, it's a risk to leave our front door open at night time, because someone might decide to enter. So I definitely recommend the Jigsaw film. Do watch it yourself as well, because then you can kind of decide, actually, this is exactly the kind of the conversations I want to be having. And you can find that film on YouTube as well. But it's kind of sort of providing those questions and asking that young person to kind of sort of to problem solve, without scaring them too much, and actually do feel comforted, because schools do so much work around this, around kind of sort of stranger danger online, and encourage them to kind of be speaking up about certain situations. It is a sad thing that the media do kind of share all scary stories, and they kind of only kind of concentrate on the negatives, and actually the good people in the world far outweigh the negative. So it's about having that, encouraging online, but also then if something does go wrong, having a conversation about it and putting it right. And I guess it is about learning. It is about getting things wrong and making mistakes. I hope that kind of sort of answers the question. Anything else?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. So the risks that you talked about again, we've highlighted contact with unsuitable people. Suddenly, kind of year 3, year 4, when they're exploring new games and want new games, they might be downloading new content. Giving away personal information as well, something that you picked up on Alice, is when we think about early years and reception, name, age, address and school, they're really important that those messages are ingrained, because when they come to setting up an account, quite often what we see, particularly on Roblox, is their username is their full name and their date of birth. And actually what we want them to do in that moment is think, actually, parent care at home has been telling me about this since I was like 3, and actually my name and my age is part of my personal information, and I'm not allowed to include that. And actually what will happen is there'll be this alert that goes off in their tummy as well when someone asks for those questions. So if someone says, oh, what's your name and where you're from, actually their tummies are really clever, and we do talk about if something makes your tummy feel funny, and trusting your clever tummy, because what will happen is suddenly all those conversations that we've had relentlessly, it will suddenly think, well, that's part of my personal information, and then they can report that person within the platform, or they can speak straight away to yourself as well. And it's going back to road safety. We look left and right and left again. Is the road safe? Now we can cross. And that's just ingrained in us as parents and carers to talk about that on every single journey. And that's the same with this. It's every time they're using that device, because they're not going to be online straight away, but it's preparing them, it's to give them those tools so they're absolutely ready to kind of manage those situations when they arrive. Fake profiles as well, particularly your year 6s, very impressionable and negative influence. There's a lot of accounts now out there on Instagram and TikTok which tell us how we should look and how we should talk. There's a lot of focus on you've got to have 1,000 followers or 3,000 followers, and it's about being resilient in those moments. When we work with year 6, they do talk to me about having 5,000, 6,000 followers, and what I do is I ask them to draw a picture of all of those people, what they look like in real life, because also in the gaming world they'll say, yeah, I've got 900 gaming friends, and then they look at me really strangely. They look at me like I'm kind of sort of like a bit strange. And then I say to them, well, if they're your friends, you should be able to draw a picture of them, and you should be able to know exactly what they look like. And it starts to then get them to question the difference between an online friend and a real friend. Exposure to inappropriate content and viral trends as well. Young people like to kind of sort of stay in touch with what's going on online, and there are positive and negative viral trends as well. So gaming and online gaming is really their first introduction to kind of sort of devices, and gaming can start off with, usually it's inspired from their favorite cartoon. So the Peppa Pig series, the Hey Duggee series, they all have apps and platforms which we allow them to play, and you're probably going to be kind of sort of cursing quietly to yourself, because we introduce these because when we're kind of in the queue for somewhere or waiting outside, we're probably guilty of kind of passing over our mobile and allowing our young children to sit there quietly for 20 minutes, and then we start to kind of the interesting games, they want a bit more competition. So we look at PJ Masks, Sonic and Subway Surfers, which suddenly what they're doing now, it's all about kind of reactive. It's building those motor skills when they're kind of, so they've got to click left and right and up and down and jump, and then what they'll do is they'll go onto YouTube, and they'll start watching their favorite games on there. And as their interests grow, they want to have a kind of more creative environment. They want more ownership, so they'll look at the Crayola series, which again, where they're creating their own worlds and creating their own. They might kind of step into the sort of the art world, and Roblox as well, where they're playing with other people. They'll be playing with their friends online. They'll be completing missions together, and Roblox does have the ability to chat and communicate with other people. So we want them to be ready and mindful of when those things take place. A very popular game, which again is all about communication, is Among Us. It's still really popular with year 5 and year 6. You're placed into an environment with lots of other people, and there's between 1 and 3 murderers, and the murderers have to kill everyone within the room. And if you're not a murderer, what you have to do is complete a series of tasks. Again, what it does, it is all based on communication, because what you have to do is the team who are not part of the murdering team, you have to work out who the murderers are. And what you can do is you can kind of get rid of anyone that's suspicious. And sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you get it right. Fortnite has been around for quite some time, and if you haven't heard of Fortnite, where you've been. It's really popular with young people. The reason why it has a universal appeal is because it has female lead characters. So we're moving. Call of Duty is very much sort of aimed at a sort of a male boy audience, whereas Fortnite suddenly flipped everything and said, actually, we're going to kind of have female lead characters. So it's got a universal appeal. So boys and girls talk to me about this game, it being their favorite game. And again, it does encourage working together. It does encourage communication. The whole point of this is working as a team to be the last team standing. So you're placed on an island and an environment, and this environment gets smaller and smaller and smaller as this cloud is starting to kind of eradicate and make that island smaller. And then your job is to kill the other players and to be the last team or the last person standing. Other games that are kind of just as popular as this is PUBG, so Player Unknown Battleground, and Apex Legends. You can look at the two icons here, and you can see that Player Unknown Battlegrounds is very sort of realistic in his portrayal, and Apex Legends again has gone for that sort of younger sort of palette. Again, has female leads within the game as well, and is very popular with sort of year 4, year 5, and year 6. These games grew massively during lockdown, because it was the only sort of social outlet that young people had. We couldn't meet up with our friends outside, so a lot of the time we were playing online. A game that I do want you to be aware of, and Charlene, you've probably heard of this game, and believe it or not, we work with Reception, and they do talk to us about Grand Theft Auto. When we look at a recent poll, 3 out of 5 parents admitting to ignoring age ratings on games. It's not always given the same focus like a film, and certainly if you tried to take a child into the latest 18 rated film, there would be someone there stopping you. And that's the same with this. The 18 rated isn't to say this is how difficult the game is to say that there's going to be lots of content within this game which is not suitable for that young person. We've had conversations with parents around turning the volume down. There is a button where you can eliminate blood and guts and gore, but again, when we look at the content of what's included within that, it is going to glamorize drugs and alcohol and crime, and there is going to be swearing within it as well. And it's not rare for us to kind of hear things or work with schools and say, actually, what we're seeing this game being played out in the playground, or we're hearing certain language being used, and it's coming from this game. And I think it's really good to read the content descriptors as well, not just the age. Again, our young person might be 7, but that game might not be appropriate for them. So it's basing it on that young person. Something that was added the last year, which is much better for parents and carers for us to understand what else is involved in the game, is content descriptors. So it doesn't just have an age rating now, it also lets us know what's involved in the game. So it might have in-game purchases. So as a parent and carer, we need to be mindful of our card being attached to that game, because it's very easy to be able to pay for things. 16 plus violence, so it is going to encourage violence. We do see the WWE games, the wrestling games. We do see young people kind of playing those in the park or in the playground as well. So it's being mindful of that they're playing and how that's influencing that young person. But it's great to have these descriptors on there, because it's going to give us a lot more information. Over to you, parents, now. Have a look at the icon that's on the screen. What is it? What do you just say what you see? What do you think it is? And you might have experience of this already, but what do we think that is? What is this? Anyone at all? What do we think it is?
Looks like an ice box to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, an ice box.
Or a battery.
Or a battery, yeah.
Victoria says the same, actually. Charger or battery.
Yeah. Good answers. So what it is this is known as a loot box, and this is where we suddenly see this introduction to sort of gambling behavior with young people, because what they have to do, when I was younger, we used to have to complete a level in easy or medium or hard, and it would unlock amazing things within that game, whereas not so much anymore. If they want to upgrade or get new levels, then they have to buy loot boxes. And essentially what they are is just boxes, and we don't know what's included within that content. And these start off, believe it or not, as young as age rating as 3. So if they want the same skills as someone else has got, then they've got it that they're playing with, they've got to pay for it. In FIFA, if you want new players, you have to buy FIFA packs. In Fortnite, you have to buy loot boxes. In Roblox, you have to buy Robux, which so they have their own currency, and then you buy skills and attributes, but you never know what you're getting. There is the option to trade as well, so you can swap something. You can swap a rare item for kind of maybe 10 not rare items, but it's being mindful of what that's encouraging. What sort of behavior is that encouraging with our young people? But loot boxes range from anything from £3 to £300, so they are absolutely huge. So if you look at certain larger games, then you can spend a lot. And there are stories where we read that grandchild has spent £3,000 or £4,000 on grandparents' credit card or parents' credit card. You'll see a lot of these appearing in the news. A website which I think is going to be vital for your top pocket is Common Sense Media. This really is a parent go-to. So what we can do is we can type in the game, we can type in a book, we can type in a TV series, we can type in a film, and we can get a lot more knowledge about it. So for this Squid Game, the reason why I've included it in gaming is because a misconception always is that it's a game. And actually, you'd be surprised that 73% of parents believe that Squid Game was very similar to Snake. I don't know if you remember Snake on the Nokia, but you were the coolest person in the room if you had Snake on your mobile. I think it was Nokia Mobile that you had it on. And I remember there being queues and queues of people wanting to play, because there was only one person that had a mobile in our school, and there was queues of people being able to kind of sort of have a go on this game. And Squid Game has grown in popularity. It's the number one downloaded series on Netflix. and there's going to be pressures from you, from young people to watch this. And again, it's just being mindful of what's included within Squid Game. It doesn't really tell us a lot about it, and kind of what you were saying, Alice, before, which is the exact mindset to have, is check everything out before and make that decision yourself. Risk assess the game, risk assess the platform, risk assess the TV show. Instantly, when you go on and you type in Squid Game, you can see here that it's appropriate for kind of sort of 16 plus. That's the rating it's been given. And you can look at what parents say, you can look at what young people say, but also you can watch a very quick sort of trailer of it as well. So all the content is there for you, and that's included on games as well. So you get actual gameplay, and then you can make that decision if that's appropriate for your child or not. And sometimes it's difficult because it's right on the cusp. So we know that a lot of the Harry Potter films have certain age ratings, and actually you might allow your 11-year-old to watch that film on their own. Again, it's based on your parenting decisions, but the ages are there to give us a really good idea of what's going to be included. So social media apps and websites, let's tackle this one. And over to you again. There are a few apps on the screen. These are what the young people talk to us about, which are most popular. Let's start with the top row, and let's start with the green one. Anyone know what this app is? And do get involved. Take yourself off mute or use the chat box, but yeah, do get involved. What are the apps? What apps are here? If you're kind of panicking now and thinking I don't know any, then that's absolutely fine as well, and that's great that you're here. So what is the top green one on the first row?
That's WhatsApp.
Yes, yeah, 10 points, Alice. Well done. Next to that one.
YouTube.
Yes, next to that one.
No idea.
Anyone know the third one along?
That's Roblox.
Yes, Charlene, well done. Yeah. The one next to that?
Twitter.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Victoria. Thank you. Yeah, Twitter. The one next to that?
Viber.
Yes. Victoria, you should be doing this. You've got all the answers. The one next to that?
TikTok.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, Alice and Victoria in straight away with that one. Yeah, the one next to that?
Don't know. First time see.
What's next to TikTok?
That's
No
Snapchat, isn't it?
Yes, Snapchat. Yeah, and again, probably the most popular social network that sort of year 5 and 6 talk to us about, Snapchat. Let's go down to the next row, the pink one. What's that? Anyone at all?
I'm not familiar with that.
It does get harder now.
Never seen that one.
Never seen that one. That's good, because we want to bring it to your attention. And just to say, a lot of these apps we've not heard before. But what we do say to young people is, what do you do? What are your favorite apps? They love to brag and tell us everything, and then what we do is we come and tell you. So that's kind of how it works. The one next to that one, the one next to the pink one, the second one along on the bottom row. No, what about the third one along?
Instagram.
Yes, straight in, Alice. Well done. Instagram. Next to Instagram. No. What about the fifth one along? The blue one. Been around for ages.
Facebook.
Yes. Yeah. The one next to Facebook.
Another new one for me.
Yeah, and then the one next to the yellow one. The last one on the list. No. Okay, so let's reveal some names. So the ones that we weren't sure on, so we've got Viber, which is the purple one, very similar to WhatsApp. So they're both advanced text messaging services. So they allow us to chat for free, talk for free, video call for free. And then the two in the bottom on the second row we've got is Telegram and Discord. Discord is what young people use to kind of chat over kind of gaming platforms. Charlene, if you ask your year 5 and 6s, I bet they and say, "Have you heard of Discord?" They'll tell you all about it. And again, that's what we do. We don't all. I never pretend to know something I don't know. I ask them, because what they'll do is they'll give you their perspective of it, and they'll give you their opinion of that app as well. And then you can kind of go and use Common Sense Media and look at what the kind of other sort of organizations or professionals are saying. We've got the other one that we was IMO, which is the white one in between Instagram and Facebook, and then we've got Yubo and Monkey as well. So Yubo, Monkey, and Telenym, which is this one here, the pink one, are all anonymous posting sites. They do have that ability, and young people do have an awareness of these, that they can go onto these websites, they can ask a question, and they don't have to give any information about themselves, or they can use that platform to send a message. And again, because it grants anonymity, they feel a lot safer to be able to kind of say certain things. So again, we've got on these apps, it shows you the difference, and also kind of why they're unique, and why we have lots of apps on our phones is because we've got advanced text messaging services, we've got video platforms, we've got social media apps, and we've got chat apps as well. But well done for that. One of the newest websites and newest apps, and as I've said before, a lot of our work is speaking with young people. Our year 5s, our year 6s, year 4s, year 3s do have an awareness of OnlyFans. And they kind of giggle when they talk about it to me, or when they share that they have an awareness of it. I do ask them if they've been on it and if they've explored it, and then they shake their heads at me and say no. But they do giggle, so they understand kind of what OnlyFans is. OnlyFans is a subscription-based social media. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of other social networks copying this as we go through, where you pay to be included within the social network. It's gaining as many as 200,000 new users every 24 hours. It's hugely popular. There is an app coming out very soon, and quite often a lot of the content that you're going to see is people sharing pornographic content within that. And there seems to be a real trend, and it was particularly very popular during lockdown, because a lot of our kind of working lives had stopped and we weren't allowed to go into work, and if we were on furlough we weren't allowed to work. So the outlet was, a lot of people turned to this subscription based outlet platform to be able to kind of continue to make some money. But it's definitely one to have an awareness of, and if you do hear your young people talking about OnlyFans, then you can be inquisitive and ask that question. What are you talking about, and why are you having that conversation? Another quiz for you. So we've got 4 apps on the screen. I'll give you some clues, and I'm going to say that there are some imposters within this. So I'm going to say that only one app is genuine. And what I mean is, one app is the genuine calculator app, and there's 3 that are not. So just have a look. And what I want you to do, using the chat box, or you can shout out a number, is just, which do you think is the genuine app, the genuine calculator app? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Everyone seems to agree that it's number 2.
Number 2. Anyone want to go against that and think, actually, do you know what? I think it's this one. And then I'm going to ask a question. What gave you that decision? Why did you decide?
It's brighter,
Yep.
more definition,
Yep.
looks more professional.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Out of 1 and 2, 2 looked the most kind of like realistic, more
Genuine.
the graphics were better.
Yeah. Brilliant. So let's have a look. So well done, and thank you for your answers, parents. So they're all actually apps, but 1, 3, and 4 are secret vaults, and 1 and 2 is the genuine calculator. So you've got that bit right, but also what we need to be aware of now is 1, 3, and 4. Because they all do amazing things, and as I said before, we had no idea that these apps existed. They're known as Vault apps. After today's session, do go on App Store or Play Store and type in Vault apps or hidden apps, and you'll be surprised. There's nearly 2,000 of this type of app on the different stores. But what they do is they hide everything, so it will look like a calculator and it functions as a calculator, but when you put in your secret code, you can hide all those photos and videos and live streams, everything that we don't want our adults at home to see. We can even use a secret camera, which is going to save it automatically to that hidden vault. We can also text message and use a private messaging function within that. And what's really scary is if us as adults are checking out the app, then it's going to take an intruder selfie. So it will get a kind of a selfie of our nostrils, or some of them allow video, so it will take a 2-3 second video. So sometimes it's captured us going onto our young person's phone, which is why we always encourage open conversation, because your young person might know that you've been looking at their phone. So I'm going to show you a video now of how it works, and I'll talk you through. For the purposes of this, what I've done is I've shown you 2 separate icons. So this is the genuine calculator, and what it's going to do is I'm just going to do a quick sum of 50 plus 50, which equals 100. And then I'm going to get rid of that app and I'm going to get the Vault app, and it does everything that a normal calculator does. So 50 plus 50 equals 100. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to enter my secret code. And then what you'll see is it unlocks a hidden compartment within that app. And I've got albums, I've got notes, I've got all my contacts that I don't want you to know about, passwords. I even can go on an internet browser. It's not going to pick up on screen time, so you're not going to have any idea of what I'm looking at. And I can search for everything that I want to search for. So I can ask questions via a Google platform, and it's going to allow me to search unrestricted within that as well. So then I can come out of that. And like I said, I've also got, I'm able to kind of hide everything and save everything within that app. For us as parents and carers, when we think about screen time on a device, it is good that we have an awareness of that, and all our devices should be connected to ours. If you notice that your child is spending 7 or 8 hours on a calculator app, then you might need to look at that app in a bit more detail. That's the only kind of insight that we're going to get, that this app might be functioning as something different. So safer settings as well, and this is something that you were saying, Alice, is a brilliant website for this is Internet Matters. It's going to give us video insight, video tutorials of how to implement all these settings. So if we look at TikTok, there's lots we've got to do before we even feel comfortable allowing our young person to step into that. We do talk to young people around this, right from kind of year 5, year 6. That's not that we're promoting these apps. We know they're on them. What we need them to do is be using them safely. So we encourage them to take control of this. So again, what we want them to do is we want them to make their account private. We want them to turn off location, because we do know that you can click on that location and it drops a pin to exactly where they've uploaded that video from, or wherever they're streaming from. We can limit direct messages, which means if someone does stumble across our account, they can't chat to us because it's been blocked. And that's the same with comments as well. In school, you might find that your young person is saying, I'm getting really negative comments from a lot of my friends on my videos. What we can do is we can turn them off. So there isn't that availability to be able to comment. And schools can support with that as well, and think, well, why are we saying unkind things on this person's platform? And also enable screen time. Encourage your young person to stay in control of saying, right, do you know what, TikTok I'm going to have for 30 minutes a day, and when that screen time kicks in, that's the end of screen time for me. Alice, you had your hand up. Did you have a question for me?
Oh, it was just a comment about TikTok actually, but it's not really what you're talking about, so I put my hand down.
Talk to me. No.
Yeah, no, it's just one major concern I had with TikTok is that my daughter, a lot of her friends are on it, and she wants to have an account. Obviously she has, but we only ever looked at it together.
Yeah.
But lots of her friends make videos in their school uniforms, I've noticed, and you can see the logo and everything, which I talked to her about. She didn't even notice, and I used that as an opportunity to say, look, you can see which school they go to. But then there's also the issue that then, well, if she's friends with them on TikTok, would that would show, even if she's not posting videos, that she might be going to the same school, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that name, age, address, and school.
Exactly. And I think it's something she didn't even think about, and I don't think any of her friends have thought about it really.
Yeah, and it's really good. It's really useful to have, even a screenshot like that, and saying, how much information can we gain from this? Because what will happen is we'll know the school, we'll have the username. It's a very quick thing to be able to Google that, and quite often what young people are very what they want is they want the same username on all of their platforms. So suddenly what happens is we might be linked to an Instagram, we might be linked to a Snapchat account, and very quickly we've got a lot of information about that young person. We want them to understand the risk of having school uniform out there. And what could happen, and allow them to kind of sort of to really think about that. And actually, the film that I said before, Jigsaw, is really good, because what it is, it's someone that goes online and finds this information there is photos or in school uniform, and very quickly that person turns up to that school. Now that adult has an awareness of who that young person is, but the child doesn't. And this film is brilliant because it's not scary, but it's very good at preparing and saying, this is what you need to be aware of. And I imagine, Charlene, you know the film already. So again, it's just, and that's really our role as parents, is not to kind of sort of tell them those scary stories, but it is to have that, that conversation with them. And again, it's my tact with my own son has changed to the point where I've had to say, this is worst case scenario, because it wasn't work. The soft approach wasn't working. And actually, that was me judging him and what he could take and what he couldn't. And actually it's worked far better now. He has much more awareness of location. A lot of what he was doing was tagging where he was and where he was uploading these videos from, and very quickly you could kind of guess where he lived and where he kind of sort of hung out, where his mates were, and it was too much information to be sharing. So when we look at location, we've used Snapchat to kind of highlight this for you, and this is Snap Maps. And very quickly you can add someone on Snapchat. You can use Quick Add, which uses a 1 mile location to see where someone is, and this is showing you exactly where that person is. It's street specific. The blue puddles around that person is their friends. So if you wanted to add them or find out who they were, you certainly could. But also what I can do is I can initiate a conversation very, very quickly. So I've added them, I know where they are, and now I can start chatting to them. And there are positives to this. For example, if we want to know where our young people are, but you can see the risks attached to this, that someone that they aren't aware of, someone knows that they're within a 1 mile radius, and now they know where they are. And this Snapchat is enabled throughout. So when your young person is at school, or your young person is walking home from school, and they might be out with friends, we can track exactly where they are. So again, it's really important that we turn location off and that we don't have it on, because it's not needed. All the parents, all the people that care about us kind of will have an idea of where we are. And what we talked about as well is grooming, and that is always a fear of our parents. Online grooming is reported every 68 minutes in the UK at the moment. That comes from a parent concern or a school concern. And again, it's about building a rapport with that young person, and this happens in social media, and it happens in gaming, it happens in all of those online platforms. The first is targeting that young person, and the first vulnerability is if that young person replies, because we know that safeguard isn't in place, that monitor hasn't switched on to say, well, actually this person, I don't know this person, this is a stranger. And actually a part of keeping myself safe is not having these conversations with someone that I don't know. And if it's taking place in a platform like text messaging or gaming, then what happens is they share profiles, and it's very like online profiles or gaming profiles or social media, and it's very, very easy to put together a profile of what that young person likes, what they dislike. Young people can be quite sort of vocal when they hate us. It will be their status. My parent is really doing my head in, or something like that. And again, it's about tapping into that, how that young person is feeling emotionally, and gaining their trust. The risk assessment always comes in the middle at stage 3, and it's how risky is it to continue this conversation with that young person? Are they vulnerable enough to me to keep control of and exploiting? If they're very young and it's a shared computer, then what will probably happen is all communication will stop and everything will be deleted as well. So there'll be no trace of certainly on their device, of any communication with attempts with that young person. Ideally, what they want to do is, after that risk assessment takes place, is they want to start, if a hurdle is mum or dad or adult at home, then they want to kind of start manipulating that young person to not trust those people that love them the most, that have their best interests at heart. So people like friends and family and school staff, because ultimately what they want to do is reach stage 5, where they have full control of that young person, and ideally they want to take the online world into the real world. A staggering statistic that came out just this year was that 1 in 4 young people between 13 and 17 have met in real life that they've met online. 1 in 4 will still take that risk to go, and that they've had a conversation or met someone, a stranger online, and will take that risk to take the online world into the real world. So during the pandemic, a few statistics and a few myth busters here as well, that only 5% of online predators pretend to be children. It's a myth that they kind of have these fake profiles. Actually, quite often they're very open about who they are. 8 out of 10 victims of child sexual abuse had their social media profiles accessed. There was a 200% rise in instances of young people being targeted. Instagram was the platform of that, and 84% of those of that rise were actually female girl victims as well. So it's just for us to be aware as parents and carers, just how quickly these things can happen. Who I mentioned at the beginning was CEOP, which is your online support, the online strand of the police. The website that you're looking for is ceop.police.uk, and you might need to report something. And in that yellow button at the bottom there, you can go through and you can make a report. What it will do is it will ask you lots of questions beforehand to say, have you had a conversation with your child? Have you had a conversation with the school? So it will encourage you to kind of sort of speak to the school as well, and then look for a joined up approach. Or it might be something that the school can really help and intervene with as well. However, if you've ticked all those boxes, then absolutely go through and make a report. And we do encourage our year 5 to report things as well. So they have an awareness of the thinkyouknow.co.uk website, which is the education side of CEOP. And if they're worried about something, if they've experienced something online, then they can go on and click that button as well. We do encourage them to talk to you. We do encourage them to talk to school, but we also have an awareness that face-to-face isn't always easy. As an adult, I still struggle with that myself. I still struggle with talking about emotion and how I'm feeling. I'm much better at writing something down. So again, what we want them to do is we do want them to talk about this thing, this worry. So if they do go online and it might be someone hacking their account, or it might be someone just saying hurtful things, so they can go on and they can report that username to CEOP, and then CEOP are able to kind of get in touch with that platform, and we can get moderators to kind of sort of step in there if needed. So cyberbullying really came about because of the online world. It's an online form of bullying. Young people do talk to us about online bullying, and they do say that it's worse, and quite often because they feel that they don't have that escape, they don't have that the school bell to step away from, they don't have the weekend to step out from it at all. So again, it can feel very overwhelming. Young people talk to us here about the different forms of cyberbullying as well. So they do talk about peer pressure, about sharing pictures sometimes when that goes wrong, but also that there seems to be this encouragement that they've got to take selfies and they've got to kind of be sharing photos every single day with each other. Particularly in lockdown, we saw a lot of ostracizing. We saw a lot of rejecting or excluding, so people being kicked out of chat groups, particularly in WhatsApp and Snapchat. Abusive comments, we saw that was huge, and we are having a lot of conversations with school, because actually what's happened is young people have returned to school with all this energy, and they kind of have forgotten how to kind of regulate friendships and deal with certain situations, because they had a year and a half of managing the online world only. So quite often what happens, it goes hand in hand, is we have things that happen in school and then they escalate outside of school. I'm just going to quickly cough because I've got a tickle in my throat. Sorry. So dedicated websites as well, impersonation and hacking of accounts. And hacking of accounts is what they talk to us about is sometimes they've given a friend a password, or they've allowed a friend to use their gaming account, and they might have changed their status, and they might have said something or sent a message to someone, and suddenly they're in trouble because it's come from their account. I want to leave these on the screen, and I just want parents to talk about terms that they've never heard before, because actually what we found is young people, they do talk about cyberbullying and they talk about online bullying, but also they use terms, particularly sort of year 5, year 6, and this is ones that I want you to be aware of if you have older children as well, is that this is what they refer to it as. So as a parent and carer, we might be listening out for cyberbullying and online bullying, but in a conversation, it's really good that we listen out for these terms as well, because then we can help and we can support. So any of these names that you've not heard of before, any of these terms, And what we'll do is we'll send over all the explanations of these to the school as well, so you'll be able to kind of look at these and have more of an insight. What ones have you heard of?
For me, I've heard of pretty much most of them. The ones that I've never heard of are doxing, fraping, griefing.
Okay, yeah, good. So doxing is really popular. What it is when you go on to like a gaming page or it might be
Oh, is that the
and
box
what you
we're talking about?
and what you do is you share information. So you might have someone's home address and someone's mobile phone number, and what you do is you share it and say, give this person, this person's done this, please let them know that it's how ugly they are or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you remember, we used to walk into certainly at my secondary school, and there would be it would be ring this number for a good time, and it would have some kind of innocent person's mobile number on it.
Yes.
And so it's very similar to that. It was again, it's about kind of just causing harm, and it might say like bully this person, and then it's got a mobile number, and then people will just take advantage of that and just send hateful messages. So that's doxing. Fraping is actually from Facebook. So it was a term that was when we used to go on. Do you remember where you could, if you had someone's sign in, or if someone had left their phone on the side or left it logged on the computer, you could go on and change their status, and it might be that you change their profile picture, and it might be that you change their relationship status, or it might be that you change their gender. So it's the same name, but what they're talking about is someone's gone on to their account and kind of completely changed it, and said hurtful things to other people. So we get a lot of this with with kind of sort of chat apps and things like that. Instagram, it might be posting embarrassing photos to their story and things like that. And then griefing is tagging a photo or sharing a photo of that person, and then placing it into a group, or when you've tagged someone, encouraging people to say hurtful things about them. So again, we get that on Snapchat, and we have that on Instagram. Any others? Any others?
What is masquerading?
So masquerading is when you create an account which is identical to one of your friends. So you'll take all the photos and you'll upload it. So you're pretending to be someone else. And or you can set up a completely fake account, and you can start kind of sort of saying hurtful things or unkind things. So they call it sort of masking as well. They use that. Young people use that term. So they'll say, oh yeah, did you hear such and such was masking as this person, or it's a mask account. Again, it's just kind of being inquisitive, and if we haven't, they'll say, oh yeah, it's about masking, sir. And I'll say, talk to me about masking. I never, like I said before, I never pretend I know. I just ask them to explain what it means to me, being an old person. Brilliant. So we'll move on, and like I said, you'll have the explanation of all of these. The differences that young people talk to us about in regards to kind of sort of the differences is that online can feel relentless. It is 365. There isn't that escape. They don't always know who the person is, who the perpetrator is, and also, with the flip side of this, and what Kidscape do is we work with perpetrators of bullying as well, is they're quite often they'll say more hurtful things because that person isn't in front of them. There isn't that empathy. We don't pick up on reaction. And as parents, what we need to do is we're mindful of changes within our young person. They might be avoiding using technology. And if it is cyberbullying they're talking about, as much evidence as you can save, and as much detail into the school is going to really help you and help your young person, and also help the school to challenge and intervene very quickly. And schools are always very quick to kind of to help and support. And on the Kidscape website as well, we've got cyberbullying logs and bullying logs, which is going to help you to be able to kind of collate all that information and log all that information as well. So finally, the last few minutes, after today, get in touch with your Wi-Fi provider, because you spend a lot of money on your internet, and something that they do have a responsibility for is safeguarding and protecting your children at home. So you can have 24/7 Wi-Fi, but to individual devices, if you've got a 4-year-old, you might say, well, I only want Wi-Fi to that device between 4 and 5 p.m. weekday evenings, and they can do that for you. They can also make sure that the filters that are put in place on that Wi-Fi are child specific. So again, if you're kind of tech isn't your thing, don't worry. This is part of their responsibility. So ring up customer services and say, this is what I would like to happen. They'll also signpost you to certain apps that you can download so you can manage these things as well. And they do chat rooms as well for you to be able to kind of talk things through. And that's the same thing that you were talking about, Alice, as well, that when we introduce a new device, make sure, if it's a mobile device, speak to your provider, because actually on 4G, 5G, 3G, they can actually put in privacy and settings as well. So if your child is 13, they'll make a note of that. And what will happen is any sort of searches outside of that will be blocked, and any kind of sort of advertisements will also be blocked. So they'll have an awareness of what is being kind of tracked within that phone. You can switch off notifications coming through. So if you are worried that your child is kind of being, other friends within that group have later bedtimes and they're talking to your young person at 11 o'clock at night, then actually what happens is the 4G will disconnect that device, and you can have that on apps as well. So you can take away certain apps. You can limit to that it's your telephone number that's the only one that will get through, so they can only dial out to certain telephone numbers. So you can put in really good boundaries there, and that's the same on gaming device, and that's the same on laptop device as well. Always have your own login on a laptop if it's a shared laptop. So your child should have their own login, so they get used to kind of typing in password. They should have their own child sensitive search engine as well. And that just also helps with what happens is when marketing and all these other kind of companies like to track everything we do, you're not having a mix up of what's then being shared. So actually, if it's a child profile and you've added that it's a young person, it will limit all those advertisements. If it's shared and they're using the same online browser, they're going to get everything, and they're going to know it's an adult, so they're going to get adult pop-ups coming up. It might even, particularly as we're in December soon, it might even have your Amazon list down the side, which might be their birthday list or might be their gift list down the side. So we need to be mindful of that as well. So jumping on through very quickly, finally, it's all about staying in control. Everything we've talked about today. Do challenge online friends. Again, because there is this kind of need for having thousands and thousands of followers. Open conversation is always the way forward. Encourage that conversation, be the lead in that conversation, and if something goes wrong, let them know that you're going to listen and that we're going to stay calm. And I know that's really hard, but what we don't want them to do is thinking that we're just going to get angry and that we're going to take away that device. We need them to feel really safe to say, I've mucked up and I've done something that I wish I hadn't, and I want to be able to take it back. And that's our role as parents, to say, let's do this together. And then we have that conversation about putting things right, and then hoping that it doesn't happen again. But they are going to get things wrong, and our role as parents is to be there and support them as best they can, because that's what they remember. They'll remember that we were there, and they will remember that we helped, and they won't remember that we got angry and cross and told them that they were silly. So again, know how to report. Do check that game is that you can report, and also do report to school if you need their help. And finally, last but not least, always celebrate the positives. It's an amazing world out there. I talked to you at the beginning about the parent advice line. The number will be included on the pack, so you can ring up and have our advice for anytime that you needed it. And finally, a list of all the websites. As a parent, sign up to these newsletters because they're brilliant. They're going to tell you everything about what's going on in the online world for young people, specifically on those ages as well. And you're done. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we've gone over by 1 minute. Ignacio, if you need to go, that's absolutely fine. But any final questions from parents and carers at all?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, because I missed the last one of these. I've been wanting to come. It's been really, really helpful.
Oh, brilliant. No,
Thank you.
you're more than welcome. And thank you for being so involved and asking those questions, because I think it's useful, because it would probably be questions that other parents wanted to ask as well. So
Yes.
well done.
Thanks.
And if you did enjoy today's session, then do let us know on Kidscape, and we're always sharing useful tips and new resources. So do give us a follow, because we'd love to hear from you as well.
Can I just say, Ashley, again, I just want to say thank you for all of that valuable information. There's so much informative things in there that I'm sure, with this being recorded, and I want to say thank you to the parents and carers for allowing us to record this session so that, we can have access to this for anyone that's missed it, anyone that, wants to go back and revisit any of the information that was given. Thank you so much for that. Also, a lot of the organizations that you mentioned, Ashley, in there, we have links on our website. So parents, carers, if you do want to have any more information, do visit the Mulberry website. There's a eSafety tab, which has all those links, plus any sort of updates regarding in school online safety and any other information that you might want. So yeah, please do check that out. And just thank you again, Ashley. Really, really good.
No, you're more than welcome. And like I said, if you kind of forget a question now, do head over to school, or if it's something that we can support with, we're always here. Brilliant. What they'll do after this is I'll also send Charlene a link to an evaluation. It'd be amazing if you could fill that out, please. It's really good to kind of have your feedback. And quite often what we do is we always apply for sort of funding to be able to offer certain courses for free. And it really does help with that, to be able to say, well, yeah, 100% of our parents said it was amazing. That's not to say you've got to say it's amazing. If it was rubbish, do say it was rubbish. But thank you for coming this morning, and and do take care.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna stop recording now.